Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly K. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we are back to discuss the Idaho case. I ran a poll before the live stream and I saw that 4% of voters are brand new to the case, 1% can't quite remember if they know the case or not. Don't worry, we'll do a very quick recap, just a brief overview, and then we're going to dive into all the significant updates that have been happening, especially in the last 2 to 3 months. There's been quite a lot happening in this case, and I thought it's definitely time that we talk about it. So I've got a presentation for you, as always. Welcome to all my moderators, patrons, members, subscribers, and any locals in chat. As you know, this case, or maybe you don't know, it took place in Idaho. So please like and share so that others can know I'm live right now and that they can follow all these updates with us, because there's been a lot. Oh my goodness. I've done my very best to summarize it for you so that by the time you're done with this live stream, you'll know, oh, okay. So that's everything that's been going on. BL, thank you for being a member for 8 months. You said, love you, G. Thank you for all your dedication. So happy to be here for a live with you and my fellow Grizzlies. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so November 13th of 2022, sure, that picture, every time I see it, it just breaks my heart. I mean, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Madison Mogen, also only 21 years old, Xana Kernodle, 20, and Ethan Chapin were stabbed to death in their off-campus home at 1122 King Road. It's actually called Queen Road, but okay, according to records, it's King Road in Moscow, Idaho. I mean, what a crime, a quadruple homicide of college students. You know, living in this beautiful house, which is now no more. They've demolished the house. I think that's the last time we actually spoke about this case. 2 roommates in the home were left unharmed. That we refer to them as DM and BF, even though I'm pretty sure everybody knows their names, but you know, to protect them and according to the legal documents, DM and BF. The murders took place in the early morning hours between 4 and 4:25 a.m. of November 13th of 2022. A 911 call was made at 11:58 a.m. on November 13th, which is 8 hours or so after the murder occurred. I know there's still a lot of debate over that, but you know, we'll have to see what they say at the trial. DM had told the police that she had seen a masked figure at around 4 a.m. but had locked herself in a room. We're going to go into more details of that as well, because there's some new interesting details based on unsealed documents that we are going to be looking at. That Mickey, thank you for being a member for 19 months. You said, hey G, I was a subscriber before, but this case is the case that made me a member. Your continued coverage is one of a kind. Thank you, G and Mods. Thank you so much. So this is now a snippet from the probable cause affidavit. It says, as I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in the single bed in the room. Both Goncalves and Mogen were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had K-bar or USMC and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe, an anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA. That's the biggest topic in this case. They have this tiny speck of DNA from the suspect, Bryan Kohberger. That's how they got to him. And that causes a lot of debates online, of course. And feel free, please leave your comments below afterwards. I'd love to know where you stand on the case. If you've been following it all along, you know, what are you thinking at this point? I think the state and the defense have a lot to work with and a lot to work against as well. You know, it's going to be a very, very interesting trial. So we're going to look now when the trial date will be as well. All right, so let's just quickly zoom in here. Forensic analysts identified a single source DNA profile on the sheath's snap, the button or clasp area. This means the DNA came from one individual without significant contamination or mixture from others, making it highly reliable for identification. That's what they say in all these documents and reports, right? Okay, so let's see now. On December 30th of 2022, this is just a quick overview, right? A little refresher course. Bryan Christopher Kohberger, 28 years old, is now 30, was arrested at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He was charged with 4 counts of murder in the first degree, as well as felony burglary, and extradited to Idaho. The felony burglary was for entering the home and allegedly committing the murders. It's not because he necessarily stole something. So He was a PhD student in Washington State University's Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology. If you want to break down, you know, like we did in the Long Island serial killer case of Rex Heuermann, of every phase of Rex Heuermann's life, yeah, we did that in this case as well. So please visit the playlist, because we've done a lot of deep dives and looked at lots of different angles of the case. We've obviously looked at each and every victim as well in this case, and what their lives were about, who they were, how family describes them. So that's all on the playlist, and we've done deep dives on lots of documents, but no, not for a little while. So here we are. Now, he had driven cross country from Pullman, Washington to Pennsylvania in a white Hyundai Elantra and arrived at his parents' house in Pennsylvania approximately December 17th of 2022. An FBI surveillance team tracked him for 4 days before his arrest, while law enforcement worked with prosecutors to develop enough probable cause to obtain a search warrant. Okay? So, then, this is just how they arrested him. While monitoring the home at 12:33 a.m. the night of his arrest, snipers observed a kitchen light turn on and saw a taller young white male wearing a black hoodie standing near the glass sliding door leading out to the deck, whom they were able to identify as Kohberger. About 20 minutes later, the light came on in the garage and lights flashed in the garage as if the vehicle was being locked or unlocked by a key fob. A few minutes later, Kohberger was seen in the kitchen of the home, this time wearing rubber gloves and handling a plastic baggie. See, it's not me that says baggie. That's how they write it, even in the document, that like he was handling a plastic baggie. Okay, the judge wrote, adding, it was 1:09 a.m. in the morning, a time when most people would not be removing items from their car with rubber gloves. But he did sound like quite, and I'm a bit of a neat freak myself. I like cleaning, I don't know. So I just think like, sometimes if he was one of those, he could be doing weird things like that, you know what I mean? Depending. I say that also because neighbors, when he lived in his apartment in Pullman, Washington, they said he was vacuuming at all hours of the night. Like they always heard him vacuuming and cleaning. And it's like, what? So Catherine Joy, oh my goodness, thank you so much. You said you are amazing. Thank you so much for your sticker. That's so sweet. Okay, so that is a little bit of the backstory. I hope that you guys are all refreshed on just the overview. Now, he was initially being held in the Latah County Jail without bail. In September of 2024, the Idaho Supreme Court Chief Justice G. Richard Bevan ruled in favor of a change of venue for the trial to Ada County. So then Kohberger was transferred to the Ada County Jail, where he is also obviously being held without bond. Judge John Judge, if you remember him, he recused himself following the venue change ruling, and a new judge was assigned to the case. And I'm telling you, this judge doesn't play. It's very different. Like Judge was really sweet. And sometimes I saw commentary online. I think even here we made some commentary of like, shame. Like he needs to have stronger boundaries. Like, come on, sir, rule your courtroom. But he was a lovely guy. It's just like, ooh, I think this case needs someone with very, very strong boundaries, because it's a huge case, obviously, high profile, a lot at stake. And I mean, it's a quadruple homicide. Whew. So anyway, so there's a new judge, and yeah, he's very, very strict. And so Judge Hepler rescheduled the trial from June 2nd of 2025 to August 11th of 2025. So get your pencils out, not pens. I'm warning you, not pens, pencils, because it could change. But jury selection is currently set to start on July 31st of 2025. Today's date is, of course, March 1st of 2025. When we look again, we're going to be there. We're going to be there. We'll blink, and it's just like time flies, right? Oh, my word. So pencils out, July 31st, jury selection, and then the trial is expected to last from August 11th of 2025 until November 7th. That is a picture of Judge Hepler, by the way. Yeah, Stefan says pencils and notebooks. Scribble that down. But it's, of course, subject to change depending on what happens. We shall see after pretrial hearings and things like that, because there's more hearings coming up. We will go over exactly what's going to happen next, okay? Now, here's some significant court events. And yes, if you've already heard some of the news, we're going to get to the witness seeing the suspect possibly carrying something like a vacuum cleaner, like a handheld vacuum. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to blood evidence that wasn't tested, well, that hasn't been further tested to identify whose that was, all sorts of things, okay? I have done my best to deep dive everything that's been happening so that we could just summarize it right here, right now. So if that's something you like, please like the video. Indy, thank you so much. Catherine says, so glad the judge is tough this time. Yeah, this judge. If you've seen any of his hearings, Yeah, no, he doesn't play. So, some significant court events. September of 2024, and obviously I could go further back, but let's just look at from September 2024, there was the venue for the trial changed to Ada County, and Kohberger was moved to Ada County Jail, and a new judge was assigned. In October of 2024, the trial date was decided for August 11th to November 7th of 2024. Between November 18th and 20th of 2024, Judge Hippler denied 12 defense motions to remove the death penalty. So you know how we've been looking at Madeleine Soto's case and how Stefan Stearns' attorneys have just filed about 80 motions, also trying every angle to get the death penalty removed. Obviously, the defense attorneys, they would want to spare their client's life. They're fighting very hard for that. Same here. They filed lots and lots and lots of motions, kind of obviously harping on the same topics, which would be how they obtained the DNA evidence and also trying to get the death penalty off the table. There's also a recent filing, which we'll go over in a moment. So yeah, Judge Hippler denied 12 defense motions to remove the death penalty. The state's intention is still to seek the death penalty if Kohberger is convicted, and that will then be upheld, and then he could face the firing squad. So January 23rd to January 24th of 2025, there was a closed hearing. I don't know if you remember, but there was this very it felt secretive, closed hearing in Boise addressing the IgG suppression and a Frank's challenge. Detective Brett Payne testified that Kohberger's name emerged via FBI IgG on December 19th of 2022, and that was omitted from affidavits for verification. This is just a brief overview of what happened, right? We're getting into more details in a moment. Dr. Leah Larkin claims the FBI used restricted databases, GED Match, Non-Pro, MyHeritage as well, violating privacy. And then there was a transcript for this hearing. And that is what has recently been unsealed. So, you know, we love it when there's things that get unsealed and then we could finally look in at what happened there. So we're going to go over some bullet points from what did we learn from what happened at that hearing. On February 20th of 2025, Judge Hippler replaces the defense co-counsel Jay Logsdon with Bicker Barlow. Now, Bicker Barlow is an attorney specializing in forensic DNA evidence, with Jay Logsdon staying as consulting counsel alongside Ann Taylor and Elissa Massoth. Now that tells you that the defense knows, oh crap, obviously since Hippler's recent ruling to not suppress any of the DNA evidence, meaning it's staying in, yeah, they're going to have an expert defense attorney who knows everything that they possibly can about DNA to be able to really cross-examine those witnesses to the max, right? And to give their client the best shot possible. Okay, so that is, those are some of the significant court events. Let's continue. On February 24th of 2025, which wasn't long ago, a week ago, so Judge Hippler denied the defense's motion to suppress DNA evidence, including DNA from the knife sheath, which has been linked to the suspect through investigative genetic genealogy, which is IgG. That was a huge loss to the defense. That was I think they were really hoping, and they filed many motions, of course, to try to get that suppressed. But the judge, he ruled not to do that, not to let them suppress that. The defense had argued that the use of IgG violated Bryan Kohberger's Fourth Amendment rights, but Judge Hippler ruled in favor of the prosecution, which was a significant loss for the defense. The January 23rd closed hearing transcripts were unsealed. February 26th of 2025, court records show that the defense filed a motion titled, and this is what I'm sure you've seen in the news a little bit as well, stipulated motion to file defendant's exhibits in support of their motion to strike the death penalty, RE, autism spectrum disorder. So if they're already planning for, if Bryan Kohberger is convicted, they want the death penalty off the table, citing so far, and we don't know what the angle will be, what they're going to say, because this is still sealed. It's not publicly available, this document. One could just see on the court system what they filed, okay? So maybe we'll get the document soon, who knows? But see, their motion to strike death penalty, autism spectrum disorder. That is an interesting angle to take. They said, challenging the death penalty will be difficult in Idaho, where the law does not allow defendants to mount an insanity defense in criminal cases. Yeah, I don't know how that will go. What do you think? Nelia said, this week I went through 11 hours of the manifesto. of ER read by you. Oh, you went through the Elliot Rogers Manifesto. Love the snark. Thank you for such commitment for justice. Thank you so much. I think that's on the members only stream, right? Oh man, yeah, that was a lot. 11 hours. Okay, so one of the surviving roommates, DM, saw a male intruder in the house the night of the murders around 4 a.m. So it said it's around 4 a.m., but it would be between 4 and 4:25, right? When the murders happened. She thought she'd heard Kaylee upstairs playing with the dog, and then heard her saying, "There's someone here," followed by crying from Xana Kernodle's room, and then a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." That's still so eerie if it was the suspect who said that. Oh my word, what? It's okay, I'm going to help you. And then they get stabbed to death. What? She had opened her bedroom door for a third time that night, and he walked past her, and she says she stood there in a frozen shock phase. I thought it would be frozen shock state, but she calls it a frozen shock phase. She described this intruder as clad in black clothing, wearing a mask that covered his nose and mouth, and noticed that he had bushy eyebrows. She guessed that his height was like 5'10" or taller, and she said he was not very muscular but did have an athletic build. She believed the intruder was moving towards the black sliding glass door of the house, and newly unsealed documents reveal that she also told the police twice. They spoke to her at least 4 times, so from the PCA, the probable cause affidavit, we didn't hear about this vacuum-type object. And obviously now the defense is saying, why did you leave that out? Why are you leaving some information out of this PCA, right? So anyway, she said that she had noticed the intruder carrying a vacuum type object in his hand. Now that is so weird. Like, there's speculation, even from the judge, okay, in the documents, that this witness was a little drunk or a little high, and that their memory is a little cloudy, but that her statements have been consistent throughout all her police interviews. Obviously, let's say if she had 4 police interviews, because they say it's about 4, twice she mentioned this vacuum type object, but all the other statements are very consistent. So they're saying in that way it's reliable, where the defense is saying it's not reliable at all. So let me know what you think. Do you think that her statements are reliable or no? As I think, put her on the stand. I think it'll be interesting to hear. You know, it must be very traumatic for her to know that she was in that house when 4 of her friends were murdered. And it's just like to think of how many people judge her, of course, for, you know, waiting so many hours to call 911 and all of that. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of heat on her, of course, but like a vacuum type object. I mean, I wouldn't be that shocked if it turns out that Kohberger is the guy who did this. If he's convicted, okay, and he really took like a handheld vacuum in, I wouldn't be that shocked based on everything else we've learned about him. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it's just not that accurate of information. You know what I mean? He could have also been the intruder carrying something that was shaped like a handheld vacuum. Maybe it could have been like, I don't know, like a t-shirt or a bag or something concealing the knife, for all we know. You know, it might not have been a vacuum, especially if it's dark, and especially if if her mind was altered a little bit by substances in any way, you know, could be interesting. Vivian says reliable. Okay, that Mickey said, I felt that this judge is more fair, strict and transparent. His reasoning for keeping the IGG in made sense. Go judge. Yeah, and we love documents. Yes, thank you so much, that Mickey. Yeah, Stefan said vacuum type object to clean up the scene. And I've heard some people on different shows, like all sorts of experts, right? I like to listen to all the opinions of this. Someone saying maybe he, the suspect, took that there to try to, yes, clean up the scene, try to, you know, vacuum up some hair fibers or dust or who knows. But you also get wet vac, so you could, because some people are like, no, you can't be like vacuuming up blood evidence, for example. But others are saying he can, because you do get little handheld vacuum type objects like what she may have seen that could do that. So, but I still think, yeah, you're not going to get rid of all evidence. Although, if Kohberger is the guy, to think that the only thing left is that knife sheath with a tiny little speck of his DNA on the button snap. Whoa. Like, there's no bloody footprints all throughout the house. There's a latent shoe print outside of DM's door. There's no evidence, nothing connecting him to the victims from his car, from the home. He didn't stalk the house. That's all that was all rumors, like, oh my word, you know? all of that is it's very interesting. Yes, so this is from the documents, this wording, by the way, a vacuum type object. That's how they phrased it in this Frank's memorandum document, which, oh my. So that has brought up some interesting conversations as well. Yeah, One Love said she was seeing a shape. Also, I think she could have been seeing a shape as well. Caroline says we can rule out a bagpipe, probably, though that kind of looks like a vacuum cleaner. Yes, she was seeing a shape. My Rustafar said 14-minute time frame. Sheila said she did say she heard a vacuum. Interesting. I don't see that from the documents. So I don't know what. Let me just quickly see here. No, she said that she saw him carrying. She saw bushy eyebrows, a guy clad in black, 5'10" or taller, and carrying a vacuum type object is how the document is worded. So I'm just going with what the legal documents are saying, as much as I think we could all speculate, what the hell was that all about? Okay, so Susan says, I have a handheld vac that's long and slender for the car. Very much could resemble a beefy knife. Could be, could be. Geraldine said, it is very real. Frozen shock. The mind cannot comprehend what is happening. That poor child. That can happen. It can happen. So, yeah, Sheila's saying, no, she didn't say she heard a vacuum. I've never heard that either. I was like, what? Then again, you know, there's Everest amounts of information. So she saw him carrying a vacuum type object and walking towards the sliding door as if leaving. Okay, so now let's have a look at this. It's just a screenshot I took from the document because the document's one of them is like 38 pages and one is 175 pages. So it said, defendant next asserts that the probable cause statements omitted important information being on DM's reliability. The defendant notes that DM qualified her interview statements on several occasions by questioning her memory of the event. For example, she told Detective Mowry, everything was kind of blurry, like I don't fully remember it, I would say. A few days later, while recounting the events to Detective Gooch, cool name, DM stated, again, I believe I was also very drunk. I don't know how much of this is real. Like, I don't know if my mind was like doing whatever. I don't know any of it. Like half the stuff, I don't know if it's a dream or if it's real. I just have no clue. So they're quoting her there. And the defense is in this little snippet having a problem with her statement saying it's unreliable and should be thrown out entirely, right? So she herself says, again, I believe I was also very drunk. That's what she said. So then she also said her memory was fuzzy and cloudy and she could not differentiate if anything is real or anything is a dream. This information was not included in the Exhibit A's. According to the defendant, this information was crucial to allow the magistrate to properly evaluate DM's reliability, and its omission was material and exculpatory. The law does not favor defendant on this argument. Probable cause is determined by examining the totality of the circumstances and making practical common sense decision, whether, given all the circumstances set forth in the affidavit before the court, including the veracity and basis of knowledge of persons supplying hearsay information, there is a fair probability that contraband or evidence of crime will be found in particular place. Yes, you see? Yeah, so here in the footnotes as well, they said based on the defendant's proffer, it is not a foregone fact that DM was mistaken when she said she heard Miss Goncalves. DM reported it was approximately 4 a.m. when she heard Miss Goncalves walk upstairs and then run back down the stairs saying, someone's here. Miss Kernodle received a DoorDash delivery at the residence at 4 a.m. Payne exhibit at Bates 5160. It's entirely possible Miss Goncalves ran downstairs when she heard the delivery person and then went to bed, after which she was killed. I just think there's quite a lot of room for questioning there from both sides, shall I say. So the defendant also contends that law enforcement's failure to include DM's non-recognition of the defendant in the Exhibit A's warrants for a Franks hearing during her December 30th of 2022, we're learning new information from this, interview with law enforcement. DM was shown the defendant's mugshot and asked Detective Lake whether the defendant was the person that she saw in her house. So she was shown a mugshot and DM responded, I have no clue. From what I remember, I just remember seeing this figure. There was more of like the skinnier tone build and some mask on. I don't know if it was covering his mouth, his nose, or below his mouth and nose. I just remember he was white, but I didn't know how he was white. I just knew he was, and I knew how he looked at me because of those bushy eyebrows. Oh, the bushy eyebrows, right? Susan Lewis says she might be backtracking out of fear. I mean, it could be, but they do say her statements are actually very consistent, right? So Thank you so much, Susan. Although the judge said, now that's a screenshot from an article, although the judge said that she was likely drunk during the murders, he explained that her statements to investigators on 3 separate occasions included a notably similar description of the suspect each time. She said he was tall, white, male, lean, and taller than she was. Okay, so let's see what you guys are saying. Rexy said, I heard there was other unknown. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to the other unknown male DNA in the house, which is also very interesting. Right? Like, oh my goodness. What a case. What a trial this will be. Now, if we look here, I will draw your attention to the search warrant that was carried out at his apartment. And I'm pointing at dust container from Bizzle Power Force vacuum. Now, if you look up those Power Force vacuums, there's really not a handheld version that I can find because they took that, right? So I've just seen some people are putting it together saying, well, she saw him possibly holding a vacuum type object. And then they're like, but then they took a vacuum cleaner from the house, like the dust container. So who knows? I don't know exactly what it looked like, but most of these Power Force ones are like ones that are cordless and they stand upright and they're quite big. I don't think that would be carried around. Now, please remember that Bryan Kohberger is innocent until proven guilty. And you know, there's a lot of questions in this case. A lot of questions. I think over time, reasonable doubt has been building as well. So that always brings for interesting conversations. Just don't fight with each other. Okay, so also noted there were no shower curtains in the apartment and the trash cans were also empty, like as if it cleaned up. You know, they say after a crime. Obviously, the law enforcement will say that, but I mean, from everything we've heard, I just hear that he cleans a lot. This guy cleans a lot. Okay, so... but also, obviously, if he is the suspect, if he is the guy that did, yeah, he cleaned up a lot. So much so they didn't find a speck of anything in his vehicle or in his apartment connecting him to the victims, which is like, sure, wow, okay. Now, current pending legal matters. The state wants Judge Hippler to bar the defense from presenting an alibi. They say that ship has basically sailed. They've given him so much time to present a plausible, reliable alibi. And all he said was he was driving around looking at the stars and he was at that favorite place, they used to go to. And that the defense said that cell phone evidence will prove that he was there in that area and not, at the house. But they say the state wants Judge Hippler to bar the defense from presenting an alibi because they think it's too vague, right? That he hasn't yet said who will you bring to the stand? Who's going to say where you were? Because to have an alibi, you do need somebody to verify that as well. That's someone that saw you there, right? Arizona Gal said, grateful to explore this very important case with my Grizzly family. Thank you, GTC, members, subscribers, mods, Grizzly K, and cats. Thank you so much for also remembering the cats. So the state also wants to prevent the defense from offering alternative perpetrator evidence. And there I'm like, interesting, especially when we get to the unknown 2 male unknown DNA and it's blood evidence. That's so weird. And by unknown, they mean it's not Bryan Kohberger and it's not Ethan Chapin. Ethan was one of the victims, right? A male. So that's interesting when they're like, nope, they want to prevent the defense from offering alternative perpetrator evidence. Okay, they also want to exclude sealed expert testimony on Kohberger's mental health. Interesting. Bryan Kohberger has been granted permission to wear street clothes versus a jumpsuit during court appearances, which the families of the victims are not happy about at all, because he's all, in his suit and tie at every court hearing, like we've seen. If convicted and sentenced to death, Kohberger could be executed by firing squad. So that's a picture, that's a new mugshot. I don't think we've seen it together here in a live stream. That's a new mugshot from when he was moved to that Ada County jail, where he's at now. Awaiting trial very patiently. So meaning that he's just like, oh no, it's fine. It's just like he'll take all the time he needs, right? Which is also a little unusual. Sometimes you would see someone like begging, please, just let me out of here. I'm innocent. Like, why did you arrest me? He's just like, he's taking it in his stride. So what unsealed transcripts? A closed proceeding or hearing, as we went over, we're going in a bit more detail now, was held on January 23rd of 2025, which focused on evidence related to the defense's motion to suppress IGG evidence and a Franks hearing, which appeals a judge's probable cause finding and therefore discredits evidence found in the search. Detective Brett Payne that's a typo, authored a living document affidavit starting weeks before Bryan Kohberger's identification. So it's kind of like a work in progress, and adding specifics along the way, like the traffic stops, the vehicle info, after then December 19th. December 19th is when they identified him as a suspect. He admitted to intentionally omitting IGG details from the affidavit as a team decision to independently verify the tip, but he said not to hide or obscure information. He also acknowledged awareness of unknown male B blood. It was from a blood spot on a handrail in the home, and unknown male D from blood on gloves outside, before Kohberger's name surfaced, but prioritized the knife sheath DNA, fearing that CODIS entry of another profile might overwrite it. So we're going to look at that a little bit deeper now, of like, what? So I would assume male DNA A would be the suspect, Bryan Kohberger, and B would probably be Ethan Chapin, because, well, actually it's B and D, right? These are B and D, so A and C. I'm just thinking, how do they get to these letters? Okay, so Kohberger was identified as a suspect officially on December 19th of 2022. Kohberger's defense attorney Ann Taylor revealed that investigators had recovered blood from a handrail in the home where the quadruple homicide occurred. It was identified as unknown male B, i.e. it did not belong to Ethan Chapin, one of the victims, and did not belong to Bryan Kohberger, the suspect. Unidentified blood, unknown male D, was also found on a glove outside of the house. It's not just like unknown male DNA. It's blood. Isn't that weird? But it could have also obviously been from another time. It doesn't have to be from that night. There's a lot of people that were in and out of that house, but still, it's a little bit strange. And I wonder if they're going to test it. Are you comparing it to anyone? Is the pool too big, or what do you mean? All right, so there's just a snippet there from the unsealed transcripts that says, at that point in time, we had already received Mr. Kohberger's name, and from my understanding was entering another DNA profile into CODIS would remove the previous one that we had from the knife sheath. So if memory serves, the discussion was, we'll hold off. We'll stay with the one from the knife sheath. If we need to, we can address the unknown male B at a later time. And then the question from the defense was, I want to make sure I understand your testimony. Were you not aware of unknown male B until after December 19th when you knew Bryan Kohberger's name? And he says, this is Brett Payne, detective, right? No, ma'am, I was aware of that before, yes. Okay, then. So, Court Looker said it was a big party house. I'm honestly surprised it didn't find more, in my opinion. Lucy Kate said, party house, imagine a lot of male DNA and even blood would be there. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the time frame would be from and who. So let's just keep going here. So here's a quote as well from that decision was a collaborative decision, the detective responded. We made the decision in an effort to independently verify the information that was provided to us as a tip from the FBI in much as the same way we would any other tip in law enforcement. So it was not in any way meant to obfuscate any sort of information. It was simply, can we validate Mr. Kohberger's involvement in this incident, or can we not? That was it. As a group effort, is the defense asking, you decided to intentionally leave that out of your affidavit? Taylor asked. Yes, ma'am, Payne responded. So one could look at that both ways, right? You could look from the defense that they would attack that big time of like, why would you leave that out? Why would you not test that DNA? That's something they can work with, right? That's also why they've got that new attorney assigned, Bicker Barlow, who's a DNA expert. I think that they will attack that quite a lot. And then if you look at from the state's perspective, I mean, probable cause doesn't have to have every single bit of detail ever on it. It's probable cause, enough to arrest somebody, right? Okay, so about this unknown male B and unknown male D, two different males, blood evidence. Okay, one on a handrail inside the house and some on a glove outside the house. Was it there before or tied to the crime? Age, we don't know the age of that blood, the volume, the exact placement either. Was it planted? Because that's also being speculated. What if the mastermind suspect planted it? I don't know. Why was it not further tested? Well, something that the defense could work with at this stage, it does not outweigh the DNA evidence on the knife sheath linked directly to Bryan Kohberger. That's the strongest evidence, of course, that the state has, and it's not the only evidence, but yes, okay. Let's just see. I'm just checking here and there what you guys, I don't want to miss what you're saying as well. I will be looking at the live chat replay afterwards, and I'll definitely be reading your comments, so please leave some comments below as well. Now, DNA evidence. So I'm just going to go over, because some people are very interested in, well, what do they have and how did they go about it? So let's go over that quickly. Initial analysis. The Idaho State Police Forensic Services Lab extracted the DNA shortly after the knife sheath's discovery in November of 2022. They generated a short tandem repeat, an STR profile, commonly used in CODIS, the FBI's DNA database. But no match was found in CODIS, which indicated that the contributor had no prior criminal record in the system. So Bryan Kohberger actually had a prior criminal record from when he was a teenager for stealing something, some kind of theft, but that was expunged when he turned, I think it was when he turned 18. So that wasn't on record. Now, investigative, and it was obviously not in the state either. Investigative Genetic Genealogy, IgG. With no CODIS hit, the sample was then sent to Othram Labs, a private forensic firm, which created a single nucleotide polymorphism SNP profile suitable for genealogical databases. Othram uploaded this to GED Match Pro and Family Tree DNA by early December 2022, identifying distant matches, for example, distant family members like cousins, they said. The FBI's involvement started approximately December 10th of 2022. The FBI then took over, allegedly, according to the defense, using restricted databases, GED Match, Non-Pro, and MyHeritage as examples, to narrow the profile to Bryan Kohberger by December 19th of 2022. Dr. Leah Larkin's testimony in the January 2023 hearing, let's just see if per her testimony. Okay, so Sherry, by the way, said, "Hi G, love you in the chat. I live 30 miles from Moscow, Idaho. My daughter was to graduate with Madison and Kaylee." Oh my word. Such a sad, sad situation. My heart breaks for their families. Mine too. Thank you so much, and welcome to all the locals in chat. So, statistical match. On June 24th of 2023, court documents revealed that a buccal swab, a cheek swab taken from Kohberger after his arrest, matched the sheath DNA with a statistical probability of 99.9998% or 1 in 11.6 trillion chance of a random match, according to Idaho State Police forensic scientist Kaylee Goncalves' affidavit, unsealed earlier that year. This was a direct STR comparison, not reliant on IgG. Then there was this trash pool confirmation. DNA from a trash pool at Kohberger's family home in Pennsylvania on December 27th of 2022 matched the sheath profile to his father's paternal lineage with a probability of 99.99998% that it came from a direct relative, example, a son. This corroborated the IgG tip and the swab match. Then the quantity and the quality. While exact quantities, example, nanograms, aren't publicly specified, the DNA was sufficient for a full STR profile described as high quality by prosecutors. Defense expert Larkin noted in January of 2025 testimony that the IgG matches Othram initially found were low, distant relations, but the direct swab comparison post-arrest then provided a robust link. So, you know, in the beginning it was kind of a little bit, maybe it felt like they went, you know, with a trash pool, and it was actually the dad connected to the dad's DNA. But then they when they arrested him, they got the buccal swab, and then they compared it to the DNA found on the knife sheath, and that was a match, right? Not that they're going to say the word match at a trial. We know that from watching lots of trials together. But yeah, layman's terms here for me. So the defense has contested the DNA's admissibility, of course. I think that's the strongest thing they have to work with. And they said, arguing, Dr. Larkin, a genetic genealogy expert, was hired by the defense to interpret the IgG process in Kohberger's case. They alleged that the IgG process violated privacy by accessing restricted databases, potential contamination or misidentification, though no evidence supports this beyond speculation. Judge Stephen Hippler, as we know, denied the suppression of this DNA evidence on February 24th of 2025, upholding the evidence's legality and reliability. So, yeah, that the defense got nowhere with them trying to suppress that evidence, right? Yeah, Tiff Knox, not inconsistent with, instead of the word match. That's what I'm trying to say, that one. Okay, so what's next? Firstly, a gag order is in place in this case, which prevents many involved in the case from speaking publicly, just in case you're wondering. And now what's next? So if we look at this case summary, right, it says 4/09/2025. So that would be April, the 9th of April, 2025, motions hearing, Judicial Officer Stephen Hippler. And then the 16th of April, motion hearing. And then the 15th of May, a pretrial conference. Then something there was cancelled. The 21st of July, hearing scheduled. The 30th of July, hearing scheduled. And then the 11th of August, jury trial. So that's what's planned. You know, and previously, I want to say it very nicely, previously with the lovely judge, it just felt like this trial was never going to happen. Like we were starting to say, is this going to be in 2052? Because the defense just kept asking for more and more and more time. They need 5 years, they need 10 years, basically just like so much time. Wow. And I don't know. I feel like with this judge, I don't know how many, obviously there will be, if there's a legal requirement for a delay, if something happens, if they're not ready, okay. But I just feel like this judge, I think he's like, this is the date, okay, for the trial, so you better get ready. Giovanna said, Gisela, can't wait for your excellent, extensive coverage of this trial. You're the best. I really hope they will have cameras in the courtroom. I think that's the plan, but I really, really hope so. They better. Thank you so much. So somebody asked below that sticker, Laura said, any pics of BK before this crime? I think it's possible Ethan gave him the crooked note. There's lots of pictures that we have on the playlist because we went over like every phase of his life from when he was born, his teenage years, and what he did and where he worked and just all the things. So it's on the playlist, which is linked in the description box if you just want to go over that after. I'm sure you'll find that. Okay, so the state plans to present an FBI constructed 3D model of the house to aid witnesses in their testimony at the trial. We were wondering about that. I mean, of course they would need to because they demolished the house. So the FBI is like, don't worry, we got this. We're going to have this amazing 3D model, right? This model will consist of 3 levels which can be removed by level to show the interior layout of the residence. The interior layout will depict wall and door placements, i.e. no furniture, human depictions, etc. Okay, so that is what we have. Those are the main updates. So by scouring the internet and all of these documents, I'll show you just a preview quickly here. Here is a 175-page document. So I was trying to like search, if you go like handrail, then you can see how they talk about the handrail. If I told you the lab report showed unknown male B came from a blood spot on the handrail going between the second and the first floor, does that help jog your memory? And that's also interesting placement, I suppose, if that's where it is. Yes, ma'am. Why did you not pursue that person? They said at that point in time we had already received Mr. Kohberger's name, and from my understanding was entering another DNA profile into CODIS would remove the previous one that we had from the knife sheath. So if memory served, the discussion was we'll hold off, we'll stay with the one from the knife sheath. If we need to, we can address the unknown male B at a later time. So you could just see these 175 pages of transcripts, okay? So yeah, I just brought you the key points from it. But of course, this is all available. If you go on Google and you say Idaho cases of public interest, there's a site there and you could just, it's linked in the description box actually. You could see all the documents there. And there's like, there are so many. There are so many documents. Oh my word, look at this one. This one is State of Idaho versus Bryan C. Kohberger, state's motion in limine regarding alternative perpetrator evidence. So that's what we talked about in the bullet points, that they don't want, the state doesn't want the defense offering an alternative perpetrator evidence or argument without first satisfying the court that any such evidence is relevant and admissible pursuant to those codes, right? And so they go like that. And wait, let me just see, where else? What did I do now? I like popped this document out. That's not what we wanted. There we go. This one is state's motion in limine regarding the admissibility of demonstrative exhibits and memorandum in support as well. Catherine Joy, thank you so much. And so all of this was included in my presentation as a summary of this, right? This one is order on defendant's motion to suppress regarding the genetic information. And after all of this, the judge really like looked at everything. Right at the end there, you could see conclusion. Based on the foregoing, the court denies the defendant's motion to suppress regarding the genetic information. Whew, that was a huge, huge loss for the defense. And everybody was talking about that last week or so. And then this one as well. is an order on the defendant's motion for a Frank's hearing. And this, I think it's this document where you could say vacuum, right? And there you could see it yourself with your own eyes in this document where they talk about DM seeing this guy wearing white male, slim, skinny, lean body type, slightly taller than DM, 5'10", wearing all black, wearing a mask that was covering his forehead and mouth, a voice she didn't recognize saying he was here to help, and the intruder walked out or towards the back sliding door without saying anything to her. While she did not tell Officer Nunez that she noticed the intruder carrying a vacuum-type object in his hand, she did convey that information to Detective Mowry later that day, as well as to Detective Gooch a few days after that. And then she also told Detective Gooch that she remembered the suspect's eyebrows were bushy, but could not remember their color. Okay. So, thank you so much, Catherine. Yeah, lady says, I can't believe it's been a few years already. I know, right? It really feels like yesterday. Oh my goodness. Remind me, everyone. No, wait. She's a public defender. Who is paying for BK's attorney, or is she court appointed? I think she's court appointed. Yeah, I think they're court appointed. MB Inc. is here. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, there he is. Okay, a tabletop model of the house without furnishings in it should be denied. At minimum, model needs to have at least furniture. Right? Motion denied. No, we'll see. We'll see. Well, the FBI model says, yeah, they're not going to have furniture in it, right? So they just want to show everyone the layout of the house now that the house has been destroyed. So I hope that you found that interesting. Thank you so much for studying these updates with me. I will keep you posted if there's anything else, I generally, don't update you on every single little thing unless I make YouTube shorts or tell you on the community post what's happening as well. So check those out as well. If you only check out my live streams or only videos, also check out my YouTube shorts and the community post, right? But I'll keep you posted if there's anything like major that happens. I'm interested to see what the defense's angle will be with this wanting to strike the death penalty regarding autism spectrum disorder. I don't know how far they're going to get in that argument. Never seen one like that. But let's see what happens. And we also don't know if Bryan Kohberger has been diagnosed as on the spectrum or not. We don't know. So it's just going to be an interesting read. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. I really hope that, of course, this trial will happen this year because I know the families are also frustrated. They've been waiting what for them will feel like forever. And they've been very vocal about that as well, especially Kaylee's family, right? The families, by the way, they have all created scholarship funds in honor of all 4 victims. And some of the families are also raising money to try to go to the trial. And I also saw recently that Ethan Chapin's family said that they just want to focus on the positive now and look forward and all of that, and they don't think they're going to attend the trial. Well, there was a recent little media interview with Ethan Chapin's mom where she said that she's thinking about changing her mind. She thinks that they might actually attend the trial. As obviously horrific as that would be to hear all of that evidence, it must be so terrible for families, right? All right, so thank you so much. If you haven't yet liked the video and shared, please do that so others can also learn about these updates. And I will definitely see you in the next one. Stay safe.